Hey guys, EckhartsLadder. Welcome to the very first episode of my new weekly series, Minor Characters of Star Wars. In this series, we're going to be discussing, discovering the background of, and finding out interesting facts about your favorite background characters from a galaxy far, far away. All Star Wars material is going to be up for debate in this series, both current canon and the old Legends canon, which is basically the video games, comic books, TV shows, other media created before Disney's takeover of Lucasfilm. From Treadwell to Walrus Man to Max Rebo, I really think that I'm going to deliver some interesting content that you guys will enjoy. As I mentioned, this is going to be a weekly show because, from my point, this will take a bit more work than some of my other episodes. It takes a lot of research. I got to find old Star Wars books and whatnot, so it should be a lot of fun. The series is going to focus on original trilogy characters, and we're going to place preference on those that are found in the unaltered version. So, for those who are wondering, yes, we might see a Wolfman episode sometime in the future. The star of today's episode, and the very first character featured on Minor Characters of Star Wars, is Captain Antilles, a character who appears only once in the original trilogy. The last name Antilles makes most Star Wars fans think of Wedge, the rebel fighter pilot who participated in the battles of Yavin, Hoth, and Endor. But these two characters are actually completely separate and should not be confused. So, who is Captain Antilles? Well, we first meet the character 6 minutes into A New Hope. In this scene, we see a menacing character wearing all black who, of course, we later learn to be Darth Vader, strangling a seemingly random rebel fighter. That random rebel is in fact our hero for today, Captain Antilles. While being strangled, Antilles claims that his ship is merely a consular ship on a diplomatic mission, suggesting to Darth that he is simply acting in the regular course of business. Now, of course, we soon learn this to be untrue, as we see Princess Leia loading the stolen Death Star plans on R2-D2. The audience at this point is left wondering, is Antilles aware of what's happening on his own ship? Or, more likely, was he willing to die for the rebellion's cause? A New Hope doesn't really provide a lot of information about Antilles. During his scene, the careful viewer might notice that he isn't actually a normal rebel grunt. He's got a different kind of uniform and he's got a decorative patch on the right side of his jacket. But that's all we know, he's got different clothing. His role in the greater universe is completely unclear. Later in A New Hope, Antilles is mentioned by name by C-3PO, but there is no evidence that the character being choked out by Darth Vader and the character being referred to by C-3PO are the same person. Darth Vader never mentions the name Captain Antilles, and besides for the brief reference by C-3PO, the name actually isn't said at any other point in A New Hope. The connection between the name Antilles and the man being strangled was made for the first time in 1981. Episode 3 of the original Star Wars radio drama has a character who Leia refers to as Captain Antilles. This character has an expanded role in the story, which ends in the same way as the character in A New Hope, strangulation by Darth Vader. This connection was further strengthened in the reference book, A Guide to the Star Wars Universe, released in 1983, where the entry under Captain Antilles states that the character is the captain of the Tantive 4. Although these two sources aren't canon anymore, as I'm going to get to in just a second, the connection here has been certified through other canon sources. Captain Antilles actually has other appearances in the current Star Wars canon. In fact, he actually appears in another movie. In Revenge of the Sith, the droids R2-D2 and C-3PO are placed in the care of Captain Antilles, who is referred to by name by Bail Organa. At that time, Antilles is acting as the captain of the Sundered Heart, a C-90 Corvette like the Tantive 4. Presumably, the droids remained in Antilles' care until the events of the original trilogy. While in his care, according to C-3PO, the droid saw several battles. While getting an oil bath after being purchased by the Lars family, C-3PO mentions that Antilles was their last master before Luke, also saying that they were part of the rebellion and that they saw some action. Antilles is also seen helping Obi-Wan, Yoda, and Bail Organa in their attempts to save some Jedi after the execution of Order 66 in Revenge of the Sith. The character of Antilles in Revenge of the Sith has actually caused some confusion among fans, with many thinking that it was Wedge, or thinking that it was some different character entirely. Now, part of this problem comes from the fact that Antilles in A New Hope looks almost nothing like Antilles in Revenge of the Sith, and he certainly doesn't look 19 years older. There was some further confusion caused by some casting choices here, which I'm going to get to in just a second. The novelization of A New Hope actually added some confusion to the identity of Captain Antilles. In the novelization, C-3PO states that they were once owned by someone named Colton Antilles. Later, Captain Antilles' first name is stated to be Raymus. So, is he Colton or is he Raymus? Are they different people? All very confusing. To retcon the mistake and help try to remove some of the confusion, a character named Jeremiah Colton, who's basically a pilot who served under Antilles, was created for Revenge of the Sith, and you can actually see him in the movie. This was all sort of cleared up in 2005 when a Lucasfilm official confirmed that Captain Antilles in Revenge of the Sith and the man choked by Darth Vader in A New Hope are intended to be the same person. The official Star Wars encyclopedia, which is part of the current canon, tells us a bit more about Antilles. It confirms that his first name is Raymus, tells us that he's a capable pilot, and that it was his job to ferry the Organa royal family between Alderaan and other planets. Antilles served closely with Leia's adopted father, and was a member of his command staff and on the bridge crew of his diplomatic cruiser. This information, as well as the fact that Bail Organa is seen trusting Antilles with an important matter, suggests that the two men are very close, and that Antilles must have been directly involved with the Rebel Alliance. Although this was never really in question, clearly Antilles knew that they weren't just a diplomatic ship on a consular mission. Or was that a consular ship on a diplomatic mission? Anyway, Antilles' involvement with the Alliance was actually confirmed in Rogue One, where we see that the Tantive IV, which again Antilles was the captain of, was actually present for the Battle of Scarif when the Death Star plans were stolen. Not only that, and this is pretty cool in my mind, he actually makes 2 appearances in Rogue One. First, when getting ready to leave for Alderaan, Bail tells Captain Antilles to get ready. We then again see him at the end of the movie in actually one of the last scenes, or the very last scene, giving Princess Leia the Death Star plans. This was a really cool tie-in which actually makes reference to how Captain Antilles was treated in the Legends canon, which I'm going to get to in just a second. Besides what we just talked about, there's really not a whole lot else about Antilles in the main canon, although, as with most minor characters, the expanded universe did, of course, expand on his place in the universe. In Legends, Captain Antilles was a member of the prominent Antilles house. He was born on Alderaan and captained spaceships during the Clone Wars. The former EU also detailed Antilles' adventure during the gap between Revenge of the Sith and Episode 4, where he worked with the Rebel Alliance, lost R2-D2 in a game of sabacc, and was part of many Rebel missions, including the Battle of Kuat and the mission to steal the original Death Star plans. There's a few more interesting facts about Captain Antilles that I want to cover off before the end of this video. The first is that despite his surname, he's not actually related to Wedge in any meaningful way. This is a little surprising to me, because Star Wars is such a small universe and everyone seems to be related. Of course, George Lucas managed to confuse this matter by asking the character who played Wedge in the original trilogy to play Captain Antilles in Revenge of the Sith, though of course he declined. Had he actually taken the role, it would have suggested some sort of family connection between Wedge and Raymus, and perhaps even that they were the same character, but obviously not. It would have confused things in just a major way. Also interesting is that Captain Antilles is the only character that Darth Vader chokes without the Force, rather going for the more personal strangle-by-hand approach. There's actually a pretty nasty sound too, which suggests that Darth Vader might have actually crushed Antilles' windpipe or broken his neck. It's gross. Antilles is also the first human rebel to have a speaking line, and, I think most importantly, he's got a pretty sick helmet. Antilles was portrayed by English stage and screen actor Peter Geddes in A New Hope, by Richard Nichol in Revenge of the Sith, and by Tim Beckman in Rogue One. I'm a little sad to say that with the release of Rogue One, Antilles has probably seen his last screen time, at least in an official Star Wars movie, but hopefully his legend will live on through more media. Maybe he'll have a book role, maybe he'll be in a comic book. There's something about this character that I really love, and it might be because it's the fact that he's the very first guy that Darth Vader kills, and he does so in a pretty badass way. I'm going to go ahead and predict right now, actually, that Antilles will have a role in Star Wars Rebels at some point. I think he's been mentioned once, but yeah, I think we're actually going to see him face to face, which, I'll be a huge fan of because I love the guy. I also love that a character who's got a total of a minute of screen time in A New Hope has such an extensive backstory. And of course, there are all the historical debates about his true identity and stuff, and that's just really interesting to me. And this is kind of a thread that I'm going to pick up through my later episodes and as we learn about more minor characters of Star Wars. Anyways, guys, this has been EckhartsLadder. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, please subscribe and give me a thumbs up, and keep an eye out for more. Thanks, guys. Hey, guys. Thank you for watching this video, and thanks for still watching at this point. This has been a long one. I've decided to debut my newest channel feature, and that's going to be a community spotlight. So I often post questions from my videos for you guys to answer, and you guys always do, and I get some really interesting stuff. So every video, maybe, I'm not sure if I'm going to do it for every video, but at least for every Star Wars Minor Characters of the Week video, I'm going to feature a comment from one of my subscribers, and it's going to be something that I found really interesting and that I wanted to share on and pass to you guys. So today's comment comes from 70279, who talks about how they could have handled the New Republic in Star Wars Episode 8. So we talk about that, we talk about the unknown regions, Starkiller Base. We have a great conversation about the New Order's use of maybe unconventional or advanced weapons. So check that out. Check out his channel. I know he doesn't upload videos, but maybe if enough people check it out, he will. Anyways, guys, I'm going to say it again. Thanks for watching.